Hey kids, Rich here from the Castles, Capes, and Clones podcast, and on today's episode, we're going to dive into the Star Wars universe. Now, I know what you're thinking. What kind of food comes from the Star Wars universe? There isn't a lot, but because it's October right now, for me, don't know when you're watching this, that means that the Mandalorian Season 2 is coming out fairly soon. And because of that show, there's been a meme going around that actually does feature a food product. So that's what we're going to make. And what is that? That is Baby Yoda's Chicky Nuggies. So join us on this episode of Castles, Capes, and Clones, Chicky Nuggies. So what is it we're going to make today? What are Chicky Nuggies? Chicken Nuggies are chicken nuggets. This is going to be different from the kind you can get at the grocery store in the frozen food section. Those tend to have a crumb coating, like a breading. This is going to be more closer to the Chicken McNugget from that fast food place. You know what I'm talking about. It's not going to be chicken chunks. It's actually going to be, and stay with me, a chicken paste. I mean, come on. We've all had chicken nuggets, even the one at the grocery store. They're not chunks of chicken. That's kind of closer to the chicken you get with like sweet and sour chicken from a Chinese restaurant. It's not really like a ground chicken. That gives you, like if you'd made these out of ground chicken, the pieces of chicken are still very big. So you kind of get that ground meat texture. What you want is really smooth texture. And so that really means chicken paste. It'll be fine. I'm also going to try to make some sort of sweet and sour sauce to go with this. Otherwise, as backup, I've got some barbecue sauce. I'm not going to make barbecue sauce. You can, of course, use whatever kind of sauce you want. Ranch, buffalo sauce, honey mustard, Szechuan sauce. Let's say we get to cooking, shall we? So this recipe, you're going to need around 2 pounds of chicken. Here I have one chicken breast, which is roughly about a pound, and then also about a pound of dark meat. Here I have boneless chicken legs. You're also going to need some salt, sugar, and MSG. And I also have a blend I got from the store, Trader Joe's, which has some mushroom powder, salt, cayenne, pepper, thyme, some other stuff. But you don't really need to do it. I'm just doing it to add a little bit of more flavor to the chicken. And you're also going to need some soy sauce. All right, and for the coating and the batter, you're going to need salt, onion powder, garlic powder, baking soda, baking powder, cornstarch, sugar, pepper, that spice blend as an option, 1 egg, some flour, and some ice cold water. Not pictured. And for the sweet and sour sauce, we're going to need soy sauce, sugar, apple cider vinegar, salt, apricot preserve, mustard, peach preserve, garlic powder, ginger paste, and cornstarch. And also water. Not pictured. Ice cold, please, thanks. Alright, let's start with the chicken. What we're going to do is actually put this in the food processor, but before we do that, we need to cut them into smaller chunks. So basically just cube it into small chunks. You don't need to be super precise, just as long as it's smallish. Why am I only using one glove? Because. Now if you want, you can kind of trim some of this fat out of here. Alright, we got our chicken chopped up, so let's go shove it in the food processor. Alright, so we got the chicken in the food processor. I've got all the seasoning blend, salt, sugar, MSG, that weird umami mushroom stuff, and I'm going to stick it all in here. And we're going to pulse, or let it go. I forgot the soy sauce, so I'm going to add it now. There we go. Now we finish. Alright, now that we've done processing it, let's see what we got. Again, it's going to take a couple minutes because you really want it to be not resemble ground chicken, but more like a paste. And if you are squeamish about raw meat, turn away and maybe just listen to me. Now, if I tried to form this stuff into something, it's really sticky at this point. So, take a look at that. What I'm going to do is put it in a container and then stick it in the freezer for about 15 minutes. So, I'll see you guys back here in 15 minutes, which is right about... All right, kids, we're back. So now this is chilled. I've got a baking sheet with some parchment paper, and now we're going to go ahead and form the chicken nuggets. I am going to get gloves. Woohoo! All right, so, you know, you don't want it to be too thick and too big. If you know what a chicken McNugget looks like, you kind of want it to look that size. So maybe like that. Press it pretty thin. You can already tell this is going to be. So, that's right. Deep fry. I feel if you put it into a ball and smash it, it comes out a little bit more evenly. You really don't need to watch me do all this. So, fast forward the tape, future me. Alright, so I'm done forming the nuggets. I'm going to put them back into the freezer for another 15 minutes. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and make my dredging stations. Alright, let's set up our dredging station. We have 3 different stations. This is going to be a thin cornstarch slurry. This is a flour mixture, and this is the batter. So for the thin cornstarch mixture, we're going to add 1 cup of ice cold water to 1/4 cup of cornstarch. So, here we go. I'm just going to mix this. There's that. All right, so in this one, I've got about 2 cups of flour, about 1/4 tablespoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of MSG, 1 teaspoon of white pepper, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of onion powder, and also about 1/2 teaspoon or 1 teaspoon of the mushroom powder mix thingy, all combined. And this is going to be our batter. So in here, I've got 1/2 cup of cornstarch, 1 1/4 cups of flour, about 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of that mushroom powder, 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 1/4 teaspoons of baking powder, and I'm going to add 1 egg, and then also 1 1/4 cups of ice cold water. And we're going to mix this. When you're mixing this, you don't want to add all the water all at once. In this case, I might actually need more water. What you're looking for is a thin batter. Maybe just a little thinner. So you definitely want to play around with this, making sure just want it to be a little bit thinner. So I just added probably about 1 1/3 cup of water. All right, let's wait for the chicken to firm up. In the meantime, I'm going to heat up my oil in this Dutch oven over here to 350 and set up a baking sheet with a rack on top and some paper towels on the bottom. So unless you have an actual deep fryer, you're going to get a heavy bottom pot with oil to about halfway and start heating it up, and get yourself a fry thermometer / candy thermometer and monitor it, because you don't want it to be too cold, because if it's too cold, then your chicken nuggets are just going to absorb all that oil. But if it's too hot, it's going to cook the coating more quickly than the chicken. And so by the time the chicken's done, you'll have burnt coating. So what you want is 350. And we're actually going to do this twice. So we're going to fry them all at 350, drain it, let it sit, and then raise the temperature up to 370, 375, and then refry it. So while this is going, we'll just wait. All right, so the chicken is done firming up a little bit. It's less firm than I want it to be. I could probably stand to put it in there for another 15 minutes. But, you know, cooking show. First, we're going to dip it into this thin cornstarch slurry, and then cover it in this flour mixture, and then also cover it in the batter and stick it in the oil. So let's do this. When you're doing this, you want to try to remember to keep one hand wet, one hand dry, so that you don't get clumpy hands. I just got to figure out what I'm doing. This will be my wet because I have more control. So we'll do this, into here, dry hand, and then into the batter and into the oil. And rinse, repeat. Of course, I just use my dry hand for that. Whatever, that's fine. You don't want to put too many nuggets into the oil because then it'll lower the temperature way too much. All right, I don't want to do any more. Again, I don't want to overcrowd the oil. So those will have to wait. And this 6-piece will cook. You want to cook it for about 5 to 7 minutes, and then I'm going to drain it and then start the next batch. All right. So I'm switching to chopsticks. It's just easier. Unless you're not good at chopsticks. Drop them in. Make sure they don't stick. Oops. Oh, sticking to my chopstick. Let this go for 5-7 minutes and come back. All right, after about 7 minutes, take them out to drain. And we'll throw in the next batch. And then we'll fry the 4 that are sitting over here at a higher temperature. I'm only going to refry 4 because I only can eat 4. The rest I'm going to save like this and actually put it in the freezer. And when I want some, I'll actually stick it in my air fryer. We'll see how that goes. It'll either be good or we'll see. So one of the problems with having an electric stove is that unlike a gas burner where you can control the flame, I have to wait for the coil to heat up or cool down. And so you're always kind of playing with the temperature. But when you're doing this, you want to maintain the first batch of the fry between 350, 360. And then when you're on your second fry, you want to crank that up to between 375, 380. So you got to kind of monitor your oil temp, which is a lot harder to do on a electric stove. I did try to do this once with my induction burner. The problem is induction doesn't really heat up everything. It kind of just heats up a small portion of something like this. So it's also harder to crank up that temperature. It ends up just cooling down way too much when you put stuff in it. So maybe I should just get a fryer. Christmas gift. All right, first batch is done. Well, first batch of first fry is done. Look at that, that's a huge nugget. So maybe form them smaller. But this wheel did like 18-ish. So I'm gonna crank this up a little bit and then fry these 4 to finish them. All right, let's stick them in. It's about almost 380, so turn this down a scotch. And we're going to refry these again for another 5 minutes. Hey Google, set timer for 5 minutes.
5 minutes, and that's starting now.
All right, so this is done. These 4 will be my dinner. Yay! After it drains and cools a little bit. So yeah, nugget. These little crispy bits. You want to take a little strainer like this and kind of skim it. 1, so it doesn't burn. 2, they're actually kind of tasty. So, almost forgot I was going to make sweet and sour sauce. So let's go make some sweet and sour sauce. I'm going to use a neutral oil, using avocado. All right, oil's heated. I'm gonna add probably about 1/8 to 1/4 teaspoon of this ginger paste. To this, I'm gonna add whatever this is. 1/4 cup each of apricot and peach. And a little bit of apple cider vinegar. Not too much. To this, I'm gonna add about 1/4 cup of water to start. Now, if I wanted it not chunky, I could have blended it, but you know, whatever. Now, I've also made another cornstarch slurry. So I'm going to add a little bit of that. Then I kind of thicken it up. A little bit more of the slurry. All right, so here we go. Chicken nuggets. I'm sorry. Chicky nuggies. Right? Right. First, definitely got more flavor than McDonald's. Pretty good, actually. Let's try the sauce. It's alright. A little too gingery. I think I would up the preserves and this vinegar and less ginger. So I'll fix the recipe and I'll have the improved one in the details below. But these are pretty good. I made a bunch of it. So after the first fry, I'm gonna stick them, once they're cooled, I'm gonna stick them in a bag, put them in the freezer. And then when I want some, I'm actually gonna try to stick it in the air fryer and see what happens, or bake it in a oven, toaster oven. So, I mean, they're all gonna be cooked. It's just getting it into a nice crispy state. Anywho, give us a go. Baby Yoda, Chicky Nuggies. Hey, why don't you show if you like this video by hitting the like button, which I think is the thumbs up button. And be sure to subscribe to the channel. We have a lot of things coming up. And of course, we have a podcast every Thursday at 6:30. Yeah. Thanks for watching. Catch you on the flip side.